Everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another live stream here. It's a weekend full of live streams apparently because there's two things that have gone on: the Liberals National Policy Convention and as well the NDP's National Policy Convention has been going on over the course of this weekend. Now the Liberals one ended yesterday with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's speech, and we covered that yesterday. So if you're someone who has been hanging out with me yesterday on the stream, welcome back. If you're new to the stream, also welcome to this stream. We're going to be taking a look at Jagmeet Singh's his speech. Similar to what Justin Trudeau did. We'll see if he actually provides anything more of a plan. We were kind of a little bit underwhelmed yesterday when Trudeau's speech went down. But let me flip over to this. And we can go into the full screen here. This is the stream that we'll be watching. And they're sort of just doing an intro right now, so I'll just mute that. But yeah, we're expecting a response here from Jagmeet Singh about what went down yesterday at the Liberal convention, potentially. Now, I'll switch back to my full camera here so you can see me all right. Yeah, hey everyone, thanks for hopping in. It's good to see all of you again. We've got Malcolm here, we've got Adam, we've got Steve, Ashioma. If you're someone who's watching, say hey in the chat. It's nice to meet you guys, and you get to see yourself up there on the video too, which is pretty cool. So yeah, yesterday there was a lot that went down. You see, Justin Trudeau came out and did his speech. It was a little bit more aggressive, going against the Conservatives, potentially hinting that there's going to be an election soon. But also, what's even more significant, and I have a video coming out on this probably right after this stream is done, just so I can get it posted and all this, but on the results of the UBI vote, and largely it seems like the Liberals are going to be for it going forward in the future. Now, of course, the NDP will see this as a good thing for Canada, but it's not the best thing for the NDP as a party, because that was one of the things that they were pushing that the Liberals weren't. And as the Liberals sort of shift more and more, it's backwards from you, more and more to the left, we can kind of see this being a negative for the NDP party because, hey, that was their policy before. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, everyone in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. We got Nadine, we got Shay, Marjorie, Nancy, Mike, John, Lynn, Rumpel, Andrew, Kamal. Awesome. Ro, thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's great to have you here. Like I said, we were watching this stream. We're waiting for this speech from Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP. Right now it's just an intro. I think they're doing kind of like a hype thing here, like they did for Trudeau yesterday. I made the joke yesterday when Trudeau was doing it. His hype video, he was the one introducing it, so it was kind of like he was like hyping himself up, which kind of felt a little odd to me. But what do you think about that? I'm going to turn this down just so we can keep on chatting here until we actually get to the content of the speech. Idiopathic says, get ready for hyperinflation. It's something we're keeping our eyes on, right? It's interesting. We talk about the Bank of Canada here and how they've been adding money to the system, the Canadian monetary system. It is absolutely wild. $4 billion a week. Is this starting? Oh no, I think this is just like the this is like the commercial break, but for a political party. But we were talking about inflation, right? We were talking about how the Bank of Canada uses CPI to determine its inflation, which is sort of tracking like a basket of goods and how that increases in value over time. But there are a lot of things that aren't included in that basket of goods, largely real estate, stocks, things like this, that have been truly the things inflating. So it's interesting as we see more government spending, whether or not this is going to actually transition to inflation, and whether or not it's going to transition into inflation that anyone actually looks at, because it's not in the CPI. Yeah, Steve, thanks. Yeah, great idea, Steve. Everyone who's in here, if you can, like the stream. It does a huge help for people to get in here and join in on this this Canadian channel. I'll make the chat a little bit bigger here. Oh, don't want to move it. Yeah, drop a like on the video. It helps other people find it. And if you know anyone who might be interested in this sort of stuff, let them know that the stream's happening. We're trying to grow this YouTube channel. I think it's a good place for people to come together and have discussion. Oh, bonjour, here we go.
Greetings, friends.
Let's tune in. I want to begin
by acknowledging that I come to you from Ottawa in the traditional lands, the traditional unceded lands of the Algonquin Nation. And anytime we acknowledge the Indigenous territories that we speak on, I think it's important for us to also commit collectively to fight for justice for the first people of this land. Un grand merci à tout le monde d'être ici dans cette congrès virtuel. J'aurais préféré qu'on soit ensemble en personne, mais je sais qu'on est dans un temps difficile. Mais je veux apprécier tous nos bénévoles les militants,
The running joke
tous
on
les
this
gens
stream
qui
is
font
how bad
partie
my
de
French
notre
is.
mouvement. Merci infiniment pour votre implication, pour votre travail. Grâce à vous, on a réussi à élu des députés néo-démocrates et on a eu l'opportunité de créer vraiment des avantages pour les gens. C'est grâce à nous qu'on a amélioré la condition de plusieurs personnes. Merci infiniment.
Okay.
I'm sad that we couldn't be in person. I know that there's so many moments, special moments that we enjoy in person, in the hallways, and I know we're missing that. And these are difficult times, but I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you. Because of you, because of everyone that's a part of our movement, all the volunteers, all the activists, because of all of you, we've elected incredible New Democrat MPs, 24 of my incredible teammates, and all of us together in Ottawa have fought to make life better for people. And
that's largely what we're expecting them to say here. Like they're saying that the Liberals are getting a lot of credit for the things that they actually pushed for in like getting sick pay included in the CRB.
There's so much more that we need to do, but thank you for being a part of
they
this.
Feel like they haven't gotten credit for the things that they've pushed for, and that the Liberal government is actually getting the credit.
I know
that's
that this
something
pandemic
that he's
has been
mentioned in an
tough.
interview a little while ago.
It's impacted us massively. We know so many people have been hurt by this pandemic. People have lost their jobs. Small businesses have been forced to shut down. Know that people have lost their lives.
Sorry, guys.
This pandemic has hit us all, but it's specifically and disproportionately impacted some people. We know that Indigenous communities that have already struggled with historic and ongoing injustice because of a lack of access to clean drinking water, access to healthcare resources, overcrowded homes, have felt the impact of this pandemic even more so. We know women who have already borne so much of the brunt of this pandemic, being stretched to the max, having to deal with childcare and care for their aging and loved ones, on top of losing job or trying to find a way to get to work without any adequate childcare. This pandemic has disproportionately impacted women. And we've seen it also in the fact that women are now at the lowest job participation rate since decades, and that is so wrong.
It's interesting. Okay, yeah, perfect timing. It's interesting that he's bringing this up, especially because on Thursday night, on the first day of the Liberal National Convention, Chrystia Freeland had an opportunity to talk about a whole bunch of different economic topics in a speech called Building a Better Canada or something like this, Building a More Resilient, Stronger Canada. And instead of talking about a bunch of different issues, she talked largely about childcare in Canada, universal childcare. So it really seems like this is coming on that budget April 19th.
Many of the frontline workers, whether it's in transportation or in factories, logistics, and warehouses, there are people that are racialized, personal support workers, and they have been disproportionately impacted by this pandemic. They're the ones that are getting sick because they can't afford to stay home. They have to go to work. And we know that young people have been hard hit by this pandemic. A lot of the jobs young people worked are no longer there. The entry-level jobs, the jobs that they would start off at, are just not there. On top of
why is this? Oh my goodness!
The
Sorry, guys.
crushing student debt that they're dealing with, and the record high housing prices, this has been very tough on young people.
He's talking about housing.
And they've mentioned particularly impacts on their mental health.
Huh.
And we know that this pandemic has impacted seniors, particularly those in long-term care homes, particularly for-profit long-term care homes. These seniors, amongst the most vulnerable, have borne the brunt of this pandemic with their lives, and that is a national shame.
Yeah, so about that whole the privatization of seniors' homes, that's something that the NDP has really been pushing against. They don't want this to be private like it is right now. They want it to be taken into the public's hands, like the government to manage all of these and have national standards for seniors' homes. But they actually brought this. Sorry, I paused in here just to listen to see if it's English again, but it's not. They actually brought a motion into the House of Commons, which was largely voted down to do this. So he's really going to push on this, along with other things like a potential wealth tax. That's one thing the NDP have been looking towards in this next campaign, saying that, hey, well, wealthy Canadians and big business should be the ones to brunt the cost for all the pandemic costs.
New Democrats knew right when this pandemic hit that people were going to be hard hit and that they would need supports. And what we saw throughout this pandemic was that Justin Trudeau wanted to give the least support possible. But New Democrats fought for the maximum help for people every step of the way.
This is what I'm talking about. They want to take more credit for what's gone on. Yeah. So he's saying Trudeau just wanted to give the very minimum. One thing that Singh said is like, hey, he wanted to make the CRB around 1,500, but the NDP pushed to make it more to 2,000. He didn't want to include a sickness portion to the CRB bill, but apparently in some sort of backroom conversation, they were able to convince the Liberal government to actually include that CRSB, Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. Now that program has been like a little bit of a disaster because nobody can access it. But that's a whole different issue. But this is I think the tone that he's going to take here is saying, hey, all these things that a lot of people are supporting the Liberals for, that like the Liberals for, we were the ones behind it. That's what he's trying to say here.
Pour avoir la capacité de vivre. Donc, in addition, we know that young people, instead of helping young people, the Liberal government was more interested, Justin Trudeau was more interested in helping his friends at WE than actually getting help to people in need.
NDP going into
Les étudiants étaient complètement manqués par le gouvernement libéral, spécifiquement en matière d'aide financière directe. C'était nous, les néo-démocrates, qui ont lutté pour les étudiants et on a livré l'aide directe aux étudiants.
We're talking largely about students here and how largely many students have been slipping through the cracks when it comes to the benefit programs that the Liberals have been putting out. The Canada Emergency Student Benefit, that ended right when the CERB ended, but there wasn't a CRB equivalent created for students. Many people didn't qualify for CRB who were students because they didn't make the $5,000 minimum income in the previous year because they were still studying, right? They weren't working full time.
For one of the most important tools in this pandemic, which is paid sick leave. We were the first to bring it forward. We fought to make it happen, but we know it needs to be better. It's still not good enough. We need to make sure that it's not only improved, but we make it permanent. So never again in this country will any worker have to worry about going into work sick or staying at home not knowing if they're going to be able to pay the bills because they have no pay. You know what we've seen in this pandemic is that the Liberals like to take credit, but New Democrats like to get results. We fight to get results. And we need to continue that fight because the situation now is getting very urgent. We know that across this country, the third wave is hitting hard with the variant spreading, people ending up in ICU. And it's not about blame. And we were seeing Justin Trudeau try to blame Conservative premiers and Conservative premiers try to blame Justin Trudeau. Leadership is not looking for excuses, it's looking for solutions. And what we need right now is a plan with all hands on deck to get every single person in our country vaccinated, particularly essential workers. They need to get vaccinated, and we need a paid sick leave that actually works for everyone now. Lives depend on it. One of the things we noticed throughout this pandemic very clearly is that the Liberals have shown again and again how they're in it for the ultra-rich and they're not in it for you or your family. And I want to give you a couple examples. The Liberals didn't hesitate to forgive billions of dollars of corporate debt. New Democrats believe we need to be forgiving student debt. Liberals profited off the backs of students by charging interest on federal student debt to the tune of billions of dollars. New Democrats believe we need to remove interest entirely and forever, permanently off of student debt. We see again and again when Liberals make decisions, they benefit the ultra-rich, and you end up paying the price. And that is wrong. With Pharmacare, the Liberals, they passed a motion recently again in their convention. They've been promising this for 24 years, decades of promises, and they continue to break it. And most recently, we gave them a chance. We put forward a bill to bring in universal Pharmacare for all, and they voted against it. The only ones that benefit from the Liberal government voting against Pharmacare is Big Pharma. It certainly doesn't help working families. So again, they chose Big Pharma over people. Personne ne doit être forcé de choisir entre.
Interesting. He's really taking stabs here at the Liberal government, who he's largely supported throughout their time as a minority government, saying that their policies have actually benefited the wealthy here, which isn't entirely untrue, right? We've seen huge amounts of asset inflation, stocks and real estate going up dramatically. So the people who have invested and learned how to do this are doing decently. We'll get into this later.
Is a crisis that has not gone away. We know that it's threatening everything we value. But what's the Liberal track record? What has Justin Trudeau done on climate crisis? He bought a pipeline. He gives millions of dollars away to the oil and gas sectors with fossil fuel subsidies. And he continues to let the biggest polluters off the hook. While Conservatives don't believe that the climate crisis is real, the Liberals don't act like it's real. And really, what's the difference? We need immediate action now to actually protect our environment. Les gens au Québec et partout au Canada veulent un gouvernement fédéral qui se bat contre la crise climatique, comme s'il veut vraiment gagner la bataille.
Saying that the Conservatives don't even believe in climate change. That was sort of a dig at the vote. Like, these policy conventions have been going on for the past month. The Conservatives did it a little while ago. Liberals was yesterday, past few days. NDP is also around the same time. But the Conservatives voted on a motion, or voted against a motion to add into their policy the statement climate change is real. Now, there was a little bit of funny business that went on there, that there was other things included in the motion that many people voted against because of that, but not because of the climate change thing. So it might be a little overblown saying that Conservatives don't actually believe that climate change is real. That's kind of like a very headline slamming kind of way to put it.
While we're in the third wave, but we are getting the vaccinations, and we know that we will get past this pandemic, and we need to start looking towards a recovery. And in this recovery, a question that keeps on arriving is that who will pay the cost of this pandemic, and who will pay the cost of the recovery? We know people are worried about this question, and I want to answer this clearly. It should not be you or your families, workers, small businesses that had to shut down, workers that lost their jobs. It shouldn't be you that has to pay the cost of this recovery. Who should it be then? We say very clearly, it should be those who profited off the pandemic, the ultra-wealthy, the ultra-rich, large corporations that made record profits, that don't pay taxes in Canada, but make profits off of Canadians. They should be the ones. I've heard it said that in this pandemic, we're all in the same boat. I disagree. We're not actually in the same boat. We're certainly in the same storm. But some of us are in leaky lifeboats, while others are in luxury yachts. In this storm, the Liberals continue to side with those in luxury yachts.
Interesting.
La plupart des gens à travers le Canada sont en difficulté.
We've been saying everyone's in the same boat with this pandemic. He's saying we're in the same storm, but in different boats. So this is going to be the direction that he takes this platform against the Liberals, saying, hey, even though they're saying that they're for the middle class, for the individual, the middle average Canadian, Jagmeet here is saying they're not actually doing that. Even though they're saying it, look at their policies. This is just, again, his words. I like to stay right down the middle for this stuff and sort of just interpret it for you. Some people say I'm a little bit too much of a fence sitter, but I don't think it's my role to tell anybody what to think.
Mais quand on parle de faire payer les ultra-riches leur juste part, les libéraux et les conservateurs ne veulent rien savoir. And it's not surprising, because when we look at the Liberals' approach, they wanted to make it seem like they cared. They wanted to make it look like they were doing something for you and your families. But when it came down to their choices, they didn't choose you or your family. Let's make that really clear. What were their choices? When it came to medication coverage, who did they choose? Was it people? No, they chose Big Pharma. When it came to long-term care and protecting our seniors, who did the Liberals choose? Did they choose protecting our seniors and caring for the most vulnerable? No, they chose to protect the big profits of for-profit long-term care homes. What about climate change? Well, clearly, again and again, instead of choosing to protect our planet, the Liberals chose to protect big polluters. What about one of the most fundamental questions of justice in our country, the fact that Indigenous people still don't have access to clean drinking water? What was the Liberal government's choice when it came to cleaning water for Indigenous people? They chose not to do it. What about making the ultra-rich pay their fair share? The Liberals, again, chose to side with those at the very top, the ultra-wealthy, and didn't pursue making them pay their fair share. But it shouldn't be a surprise. This is who the Liberals really are. Even when New Democrats gave them an opportunity to do the right thing, at every occasion, the Liberals chose to side with the ultra-wealthy. They've made it very clear. They are simply not in it for you. But we are, and we will continue to be. Now, what about the Conservatives? We've heard them say that they are friends to workers. That they are the friends of workers. Well, I say very clearly, the Conservatives are no friends to workers when they deny them paid sick leave. They're no friends to workers when they deny Pharmacare. They're no friends to workers when they protect profits in long-term care. And they're certainly no friend to workers when they make it harder to join a union. These Conservatives are no different from the previous ones. They believe in cutting the services that people need and making it harder for everyday people. Nous avons vu
Okay, that's very, very interesting. One thing what happened in the Conservative Policy Convention was the Conservatives saying, hey, we need to find a way to get more voters. And how they were planning on doing that is to look really hard into the workers, the people who are very pro-union. Now, traditionally, the Conservatives have been rather against union because this lowers profits for businesses. This is long-term, just like broad, right? But now they want to be able to get union workers into their fold. Traditionally, a group of people that are largely in support of the NDP because of the historical support the NDP have had for strong unions in manufacturing and industry. So it's interesting that he's sort of attacking the Conservatives, saying, "Hey, even though they're saying they're doing this, they're not actually."
We've shown what we can accomplish when you elect New Democrats. How we can fight for people and deliver the help that people need, how we can improve the conditions of people. But imagine what we could do if we had more New Democrats elected. Imagine what we could do if we formed a new democratic government. Imagine all the things that we can do. We can take better care of each other with better health care, including universal Pharmacare for all and getting profits out of long-term care. We can uplift young people by tackling student debt. We can have true reconciliation with Indigenous people, starting with making sure that every Indigenous community in this country has clean drinking water as a starting point and building on that. We can have a more equal Canada by tackling hate, racism, and discrimination in all its forms. We can take on the climate crisis by investing in a sustainable recovery that creates good jobs, that helps reduce our emissions. We can do all of this, but only if we have a government with the courage to do it. The courage to stand up to powerful corporations and the ultra-rich, to make them pay their fair share. New Democrats have that courage. We have that courage. Canadians are better off with more New Democrats elected. And I need your help to elect more New Democrats in this election so we can make those changes to lift people up. So I need you to get out and volunteer. I need you to make phone calls, to donate, to help people to vote. Talk to your friends and your family. Let them know all that New Democrats achieved to make people's lives better.
Trudeau
and how
said the
it would
same
help
thing
them
yesterday,
to have more of
really
us.
pushing to his base to say, hey, we need your help to get more voters.
Devenez bénévole. Faites des appels.
So it seems like they're really talking like this federal election is looming, and it's felt like that for a while. But there's no hard date that we're having this election as of yet. But because we have a minority government right now, it can happen at any time if the government, the Liberals, are voted against in the House of Commons, and then they prompt a vote of no confidence. But Jagmeet, this guy who's talking right now for the NDP, has said he's not going to look for an election, which means he has to support the Liberals' budget, the Liberals' ideas. He doesn't want there to be an election right now based on his previous statements. But it seems like the Liberals could call this anyways.
And friends, now we are going to go to have a quick chat with Lori Antonin. I'm really excited about this. So come join me over here. We'll have a little chat.
Oh, we're doing a fireside portion.
Hey, Lori, can I give you an air elbow there?
Okay, we're going to see if this has any new content, anything interesting that we want to cover here.
I'm doing all right. How are you
Or whether or
doing?
not we want to go straight into the
I just got to connect with
so
so many incredible members of our movement, so it's pretty exciting.
It is really exciting. And you know what? This is, we all know, a different setup, right? I mean, everything's pretty new.
Okay, this seems like a little bit of fluff, but interesting stuff coming out of that speech. Largely more pointed towards the Liberals, like a lot more aggressive against the Liberals than previously thought. Let's see what they're talking about here.
There's been a lot of folks doing a lot of really hard work, and shout out to all the organizers who are putting their all into
just
this.
talking about the convention. Yeah. So yeah, a lot more pointed against the Liberals, really trying to, I think, make as big a divide between the two parties as there possibly can be. Even given like the NDP, I'll just try to get my camera right. The NDP are over here on the left, right? The Liberal government with their votes have been like marching over here. And as they get closer and closer, like almost like osmosis, voters start leaching into the Liberal Party, and the NDP aren't huge on this. So they're trying to draw these hard lines in the sand saying, hey, this is why we're different. The Liberals, even though they're saying they're in support of these very left-leaning policies, they aren't really doing it.
That's really important. Thank you, Jagmeet. I want to talk about 2020, 2021. We're still in this weird reality, right? What's been keeping you motivated in this time?
I think about all the people
let's
that
just
need...
get in. Let's just put a kibosh on that stream, because I think that the bulk of the content from the actual speech is pretty much done there. So yeah, like I was saying here, I'm gonna pull up my notes here that I've been taking throughout the speech and just go over what he said here. He said, like I said, very pointed against the Liberals. We're also seeing him mention we need to more heavily support seniors with all of this, the long-term care. He wants to make that public, not private, not privately owned for-profit businesses. He wants to shift that over to something managed by the government. Now, lots of people will be against that, saying, hey, look at the way the government runs other things. Look at these other public services that aren't up to snuff. Do we really want to put the long-term care homes in the hands of the government? This is constantly the discussion whenever there's talk about taking something that's private to go public, and also like the inverse conversation, something public going private, right? So that's interesting. He brings that up, but they've been pushing for that for like the past 6 months, bringing things into the House of Commons, always questioning in question period. These are the things I watch to try to sort of on this channel put all these different bits and pieces together to make videos for you, so you don't have to watch 4 hours of a boring debate. I can just bring in the key points. But that's what they've been bringing up for a while. Also, huge emphasis on paid sick leave. Now, that's something that they pushed really hard for to be included in, Bill C4. That was the bill that brought forward the CRB, right? The CRB, the CRCB, the child care, or the Canada Recovery Caregiver Benefit is the CRCB. And now the CRSB, the NDP are really taking credit for the CRSB, saying, hey, there wasn't even going to be this included. There wasn't going to be any sick leave at all until we told the Liberals, hey, we're not voting this through unless you put this thing in there, man. That's what the NDP were saying. Now, the program hasn't been very successful, very low uptake rate amongst people who are wanting to actually apply for this sickness benefit, because largely because of the way it's structured. You have to be off for like a week. So even if you like wanted to go and get a test and do these things, and for 1 or 2 days, you couldn't do it unless you were off work for 50% of your week, I believe is the way it was structured. So problems there. But we're also seeing pushes, and I covered this when we were covering the EI extension up to 50 weeks. Lots of NDP MPs in those debates were pushing for a reform of the EI sickness benefit that is currently there. Now, right now, that's capped at 15 weeks, I believe it is. But everybody in the House of Commons has said, hey, we want this up to 26, but they still haven't done it. So a little bit confused confusing. The NDP want this to be boosted up to 50 weeks, saying that, hey, like people who are on EI sickness and this is the example they use, people who are going through cancer treatments and are going through chemotherapy, they're running out of their sickness benefits before their treatment is through its course, and they want to expand that. And now in Singh saying inside of this update that he's given on this speech is saying, hey, we want to make this 100% permanent. Let's bring forward more benefits like this. Yeah, so lots of different things here. Yeah, and he's saying he's taking credit for the Liberals here. They're also mentioning corporate debt forgiven, but not debt to individual Canadians. So they're talking about the big grants and the big loans that were given to businesses at the beginning of the pandemic, and how largely those grants and loans, at least a portion of them, were forgivable. So they actually didn't have to pay back all of the loan, right? It wasn't as much of a loan as it was a handout for some portion of that loan, right? I think it was like if you paid back up to like 50% of it, you got the other 50% free. It could be 75-25. I need to go back into the details. I haven't talked about that for a little while. So he's saying, hey, we're forgiving businesses, we're forgiving corporate debt, but we're not forgiving things like student debt. I made a video on the channel a little while ago about where all these parties stand on potential student debt forgiveness. And he's also like commenting on Trudeau's response to the climate crisis, saying, hey, they campaigned on an environmental platform, but they haven't really done things. He bought a pipeline to try to appease Western Canada. This is what Jagmeet is saying. And also just he was over the entire speech just slamming Trudeau for consistently siding with the ultra wealthy in his view, right? This is what it seems like they're really going to push in the election, is saying, hey, Liberals, they're not for you, they're for the wealthy. Now, that's typically something that people use to describe the Conservatives when they're attacking the Conservatives, but it seems like Jagmeet, again, like I said, to draw this line, to make it more thick in the sand, is coming out and saying, hey, Liberals are actually the ones now who have big pharma in their pocket, big business has the government in their pocket, right? And he actually brings up the We Charity scandal, which is something that only a few Conservative MPs are still talking about right now. You might remember there was that big scandal where the We Charity was given the contract to provide a student benefit, a student summer jobs program, I believe it was, or volunteerism credit, something like this. It didn't actually go through because of all the controversy around it, but that was largely forgotten and dropped when the Liberal government prorogued Parliament and actually took a break and said, hey, we are going to pause Parliament right now. They didn't say it was because of the We Charity scandal, but lots of people believe that it was. Not too many people talking about it right now. Pierre Poilievre is very hard on the Liberals for this still, but now we see Jagmeet Singh joining the fold on that, which is really interesting, that they're sort of trying to take all these points of weakness for the Liberals and just press on every single pressure point that they possibly can. But yeah, an interesting speech. So now we've gotten the closing speeches from the policies of all of the top three parties, right? Actually, no, not top three, because I think Bloc Québécois has more seats than the NDP in the House of Commons. But we have heard from the NDP, the Conservatives, and the Liberals. I would say each of the speeches were quite different. The Liberals and the NDPs came out and basically, the Liberals were, most of the speech was about saying, hey, look at what a good job we did. Look at all these programs. Look at how successful it was. The Conservatives are bad. That was essentially the speech yesterday. NDP here saying, Liberals, hey, they've done some good things, but they've been in the pockets of these big businesses. And the real things that actually helped Canadians were only done by the Liberals because of the pressure that the NDP put on them. That's what the NDP said. But both of those speeches didn't really lay out any sort of plan for what they would do and what those programs would look like. Of course, Singh saying we're going to privatize seniors' residences. We're going to apply a wealth tax, taxes on these big corporations. These are the larger talking points, but we didn't really get any details on how these things would actually work if they were to be elected. And this is my complaint about all of these speeches, is that there's not enough detail about the plan. Now, surprisingly enough, the one that actually did give the most details was Aaron O'Toole of the Conservatives, who came in and said, hey, here's our 5-step plan of what we're going to do if we're elected. Now I have a video on the channel going through all of that if you want to check it out. It's the only one that has Aaron O'Toole on the thumbnail, with me probably making some dumb YouTube face because you have to on YouTube. But he was the only one that laid out that plan. Now, the plan was a little bit broad, right? We didn't see how he'd actually implement all of those things. So that was a little bit frustrating, but you can check out that video if you're interested in that. Yeah. And I want to take a second to say thank you everyone for tuning in. I really love doing these live streams because it gives me a chance to get to know everybody here in the chat. I see some regulars in here. We've got a bunch of people in here. Hey, Nate, how's it going? Yeah, Nate. It's an interesting points here. Nate's a good regular commenter on the channel. So many people in here that have been so supportive of these Canadian channels. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we're going to keep on covering both Canadian news and politics, but also Canadian investing and Canadian personal finance. These are other things we like to talk about. We talk about the housing crisis that's going on. My full-time job is as a realtor in the Greater Toronto area, so that's something I'm very close to on a day-to-day basis, and there are certainly some problems there. So we talk about all of the policies and all of the things that are being brought in to either cool or to boost the housing market in some cases, which is what we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been great. Kyle, yeah, I think I will be making a video. Let's take a second here. I'll make chat a little bit bigger here, and if anyone has any questions or anything they want to talk about, we'll finish this stream up with a little bit of Q&A. You guys know what my area of expertise is in what I talk about. But let me know if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about. We're going to be doing a little bit of a chat Q&A here. Lucid Dream says the future is looking brighter. That's definitely the way I like to look at it. Some people get into this negative mindset that everything's always going to be worse in the future. We're going downhill. But largely, if you look at like the long-term effect of the technology and the new things that are being brought into the world, largely the standard of living is raising over the long term. Now, of course, there are ups and downs that we have to manage and do a better job on. But I try to stay positive, just like you, Lucid. Jem says, if you guys don't vote, those in the chat, why are you even in this chat? Yeah, I mean, some people like to abstain from voting, but yeah. Trudeau says, we cannot afford more than we can give. Interesting. I don't know what you're referring to there. Nate says, how do you think the housing market will cool? Now, this is interesting. I made a video on the channel a little while ago, I think a couple days ago, about some new regulations that are coming in. Finally, they're coming in to regulate the Canadian housing market a little bit more, and that was through OSFI, the Ontario Secretary for Financial Institutions. I believe this is what this is called, and essentially it's going to boost interest rates for the mortgage stress test. All this means is that people have less buying power with the same income when they're qualifying for a mortgage. This could slow things down, but the one problem is they've put a hard date on this of June 1st that this is going to come into place if it actually if there's no problems found with it and they actually implement this change. June 1st is when it would happen. So if you're a buyer out there and you say, hey, it's going to be harder for me to buy a home on June 1st, what are you going to do in the next months leading up to June 1st? You're going to try to buy a house as quickly as possible and go as hard as possible, pay over asking because you won't be able to qualify for it after this date. So it could just cause an even bigger flurry, Nate. Good question. Nassim says, what's up, Russell? You have so much energy. What do you do? Coffee. I think every single stream you guys get to see my different coffee cups. This is my tea time one. I like golfing every now and then. A little odd that golf is still open in Ontario when everything else is shut down, but coffee is the answer. Coffee's the answer. And also it's just fun to hang out here with you. I mean, like how could you not have energy when there's 350, 400 sometimes people who are all into it and engaged Canadians who are looking to learn and looking to increase their own individual wealth. That's what we talk about on the channel from time to time here. And it's just exciting to talk to everyone and hang out with you. So lots of energy here, but coffee is a big part of that. Am I also my guilty pleasure? And you guys are going to say, Russell, you are literally killing yourself by doing this. But every once in a while, maybe like once every 2 weeks, I'll down one of those cans of Monster energy drinks. Oh man, best tasting thing on the world. Not a sponsored stream. Something about that just takes me back to high school. And I know it's probably killing me, but that's another energy boost too. Oh man. All right. Thank Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We got Mohammed, Carolyn, Jem, Sandra, Marjorie, Carolyn, Scott, Terry. Let me know where you guys are from. Yeah, I like to say, Eugene is from Medicine Hat, Alberta. So cool. I love to see that we have so many different Canadians in here from all over. Man, it's awesome. Kibrom, thank you for the kind words. It's so nice of you. Hautika, sorry if I'm saying your name, Hautikas. We really appreciate your stream, Russell. Thanks so much for your coverage. Yeah, thanks so much. I have such a good time on here. I really appreciate everyone tuning in and helping to grow this channel. I've been having a lot of fun with it over the past while since I've been putting more focus on growing the channel. So thank you guys. Yeah, we've got Jem from Mississauga. Tom from Chatham. I've been out to Chatham. I, in a past life, was a professional musician, and I've played at that Chatham main theater there, Capitol Theater, I think it's called. Yeah, cool. Alberta Viking, cool. Manitoba, Fort McMurray, London, Ontario. Nate, that's awesome. I've got some family out in London. Leamington, very cool. Leamington, Ontario. Vancouver. Bob Cajun, very cool. Shame about, I'm a big hockey fan. Shame that Bob Cajun didn't win that the NHL thing that they were a contender for. That would have been pretty cool. But yeah, cool, Bob Cajun. Also, best ice cream on the planet, Kawartha Dairy ice cream from Bob Cajun, Ontario. Very cool. Yeah, Vancouver Island, so awesome. Yeah. Calgary, a couple from Calgary. So cool. So cool. You know, I've got a lot of life left to live, but I still haven't made it out to the west coast of Canada. I've been to the east coast, but I have never been west of Ontario. So that is something that I really want to do. I enjoy skiing too, so how could I not go out to the mountains at some point in the future and try to do that? That's something that would be awesome. It's so beautiful out there from what I've heard. I've got some friends out there that have moved from Toronto out there a little while ago, but maybe I'll go and visit them when all of this pandemic business is all done with. Okay, positive is you have huge power. We just need to stop giving it to evil overlords. Oh, okay, interesting. Empower ourselves if we choose to have a window to do it. Yeah, Windsor, Ontario. Awesome, Kim. I read that if we get the UBI, that if TSFA profits will be taxed. Is that not the reason for the TFSA? Now, I haven't heard anything about that, Meg, about any changes to the TFSA. Now, if you don't already know and you're watching the stream, the TFSA is like the holy grail of investment accounts here in Canada, because typically when you invest and you make some money on that, your whatever it is grows. When you sell it, the government says, hey, I'm going to take my piece from that growth. Good job. You put your post-tax dollars into an investment and watched it grow. And now, even though you already paid tax on your income that you're putting in towards it, we're going to take a piece of your investment too. Kind of frustrating, but they actually have the TFSA, tax-free savings account. Poor name for the account, because it shouldn't be used as a savings account. It should be used as an investing account, which you can do. You can open up investing accounts on Wealthsimple, Questrade, these places under a TFSA. And in those cases, no matter how much your investment grows, you're not going to get taxed on it. So it's the holy grail of investing. I don't think that there's been any mention of a TFSA being taken away. I think it was Meg who said that. Haven't heard about that. I'd be interested if you have a link to some sort of information about that. Feel free to, and anyone on the stream, check out the link in the description to the Discord channel. We have a Discord channel for this channel. It's like a sort of text app where we can send pictures, send messages to each other, even when the stream's not going on. So if you're someone who has information that you want me to check out, that's the best place to do it. Again, there's a link in the description to the Discord server. It'll send you a private invite so that you can get into our server and hang out with us in there. Perush says, Russell, go west, young man. You'll love it, from Calgary. Very grateful for your channel. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I've got to get out there. I've got family in Calgary too. So, man, I've got all these links out there, but I'm just not taking the chances to go out there. I'm sure I will soon. Carolyn says, CERB turned into CRB, and it was always a test for UBI. It will be UBI. We are getting UBI watch. Interesting take. We're really going to have to wait for April 19th. I keep on mentioning this, but if you're tuned into this stream and you like this one, there's a really consequential stream that we're going to be having on the channel April 19th. Mark your calendar. I think it's around 4 o'clock that day, but that's when Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister for Canada, is going to be revealing her budget and the Liberal government's budget. Now, that's going to provide up to $100 billion in spending over the next 3 years. And the information inside this budget is going to determine what that goes towards. Are we going to extend the recovery benefits? Like we've seen a lot of people go into these third wave scenarios. There's been lockdowns. Job numbers are probably going to go down. So are they going to extend benefits? We're going to find out then. Is it going to transition into a UBI? We're going to find out then. Are they going to step into the housing market and say, hey, enough's enough. It's been growing too crazily. We're going to do something about it. We're going to find out April 19th. So really a lot of things inside that budget. So stay tuned for that. And there's going to be content on this channel all about that. Yeah, Nassim, yeah, I'll stay home for now. Yeah, you're right. Is it ever possible an NDP government in Canada? I mean, anything's possible, right? They'd need to get at least, they'd have to win an election, right? It could be a minority government, majority government if they were able to get that. But it seems like there is sort of a growth in NDP support, especially as the NDP are really targeting young people. Let me show you this article I read. NDP and NDP have been changing the way that they're doing their advertising, focusing more on social media and TikTok and these things to go after younger viewers, younger audiences, right? So as a result of this, of course, over time, they're going to develop more and more support for the party. It's just, if you target young voters, they're going to grow up. Do you know what I mean? But I think that young voters are smart and they're not going to just go for the person that they've seen the most on social media. It really is going to come down to the policies and the way that they're rolled out here. But yeah, saying that he took part in a split screen Instagram live stream. He's got a TikTok account. I've seen him on there. He did the whole like the ocean spray dog face thing on TikTok where he's like riding on a longboard with a thing of cranberry juice. But yeah, so he's changing the strategy. So, I mean, if you're somebody who's in support of the NDP, it seems like if I were running a federal party, this is what I would be doing. You know what I mean? The power of social media is huge and it's underutilized by some of the more traditional parties, right? So I could definitely foresee in the future more and more support for the NDP growing just based off of the fact that they're targeting the younger Canadians, right? Good question. SS, when is the NDP show? I think that you might be referring to the speech that already happened. Just scroll back on this live stream. Also, this stream is going to be available on my channel after we're done here, so you can go back and watch it. And I'll probably put timestamps in so you can find out when it exactly happened. All right. All right. Voting is consent when NDP show start. UBI will only increase hyperinflation. Absolute nightmare. It remains to be seen. We're going to have to find out. Russell, have you posted a video on how to file taxes yet? I'm not sure if I missed it. Yeah, Teaspoon, I did. Specifically about like if you had received any benefits, because I have a lot of content on my channel about the CRB and sort of managing through that whole often confusing process. I do have a video on that. If you search Russell Matthews taxes, I have a few different videos on different tax things that you can file. I think that the one that you might want to look at is I can't remember what it's titled, but I think it's like CRB taxes due is like on the thumbnail. So if you just search for that on my channel, you'll find it. It'll help you figure out which tax credits you can actually apply to pay less on your taxes, because lots of people come the April 30th deadline for taxes are going to be having to pay more this year if they received benefits that boosted them over their traditional income. 14-year-old bragged about eating Cheetos and playing with his PlayStation in the basement while collecting $2,000 a month from Justin. Yeah, there has been some controversy about students being able to receive the CERB when that was originally announced, younger Canadians. But the thing is, they tried to make this so that the benefits would come as quickly as possible, right? So that people who needed it right now would get it. Now, if they were to make it a little bit more complex, less people qualify, more of a looking into whether or not you qualify or not, it would take longer, obviously, for the benefit to get out. So there's a little bit of a give and take. Like the benefit's going to go to some people who maybe don't deserve it, but how can you say that all 16-year-olds don't deserve it? Not everybody at that point is living at home. Not everybody is able to rely on their parents, right? Like there's some tricky situations there. So there has been a lot of controversy around that, though. People sort of bragging, hey, I got a CRB, bought my PlayStation, right? Of course, that's not what it was intended for, but whether or not you think that that's a side effect that you're willing to cope with in order to have the benefits get out to the people who actually needed it, that's for you to decide, right? Yeah, maybe Dixie, maybe it was 18. No, I don't think it was actually 18. I have to look back at it. Provincial government will take away any federal aid from me. Why? I don't know what you're referring to, Pixel. The UBI, if it's improved, should be individual. Lots of new news on the UBI. There's going to be a video coming out here on the channel up like probably right after this stream is done, because I filmed it this morning before this stream, just going over all of the results from the Liberal Policy Convention where they're actually implementing a UBI into their policy now. All the results from those individual ones and what it could look like. UBI will be digital currency, which you won't get unless you accept the market. Okay, interesting take. What I do find interesting is the digital currency idea. Like people here know that I hold a little bit of cryptocurrency, about 5% of my investment portfolio is in that. But there's also been some news about Canada getting ready to be able to implement a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. So the Bank of Canada is looking into developing the capacity to do this. Now, how that's all going to work, we don't know yet. And they're not actually planning to implement this yet, but they do have the capacity to, or at the very least, they're putting resources towards making sure they have the capacity to for a time when this might be necessary. Yeah, what about 21-year-olds that can't get any benefits and can't find jobs? I feel for you, Hala. I feel for you. That's one of the groups that's been left out of all of this, right? Left out of a lot of the benefits and the supports, and it's more and more challenging to get jobs right now. All the best to you. I mean, I wish that I could give you more on that. Yeah, DM. It's a little bit of an LOL. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. This is sometimes when you're reading the comments, you got to sort of parse through them and sort of pivot a little bit. That's what I do. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, thanks you guys for tuning in. I've had an absolute blast here doing these live streams. We're going to keep on doing them. So if you want to be informed on when these live streams happen, whenever there's something interesting that I think is live and you guys might want to know about for the future of Canada, then the best way to stay tuned, the best way to know when that's happening is to hit the notification bell after you subscribe to the channel. You know that like little bell icon down there? What that's going to do is it's going to allow it to send you a notification to your phone so that it'll say like, hey, Russell Matthews just went live, and you can hop in here if it's something you want to do. And also, if you're watching the stream and you want to keep the conversation going, we do have that Discord channel. There again, there's a link down there where you can get in there. There's people talking all the time, and that's often what I look at when we're doing these live streams. If someone says, hey, Russell, here's some interesting new news you should cover on this live stream, they'll often send it in one of those in the general Discord chat for me to take a look at. So that'll get me pictures, that'll get me links, things like that. So if you want to join and keep the conversation going, feel free to hop in there. Yeah, with all that said, thanks for watching, you guys. We're going to call this stream here. Look out for that video tonight when we're going to learn more about the UBI vote that went down. And with all that said, I'm going to do my classic video outro. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this stream has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye guys. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.